Hi, my name is Megan Martinez, and I'm currently enrolled in SPCE 689, Section 810 with Professor Savage. Today is November 16th, 2025, and I'm going to begin by shuffling my deck of cards 3 times and splitting it down the middle. 1, 2, 3, split down the middle. Okay, I have a 1-minute timer set on my phone already. Looks like that. And then I'm going to be holding the cards so that the definitions facing me, terms facing the camera. So with that being said, I'm going to get started right now. Scientists first consider the most logical and simple explanations for a phenomenon. Parsimony. Group of responses with the same function. Response class. Reinforcement that occurs via another person. Socially mediated reinforcement. Branch of behavior analysis, which involves research and experiments. Experimental analysis of behavior. Refers to behavior that occurs more often in the presence of a stimulus than in its absence. Stimulus control. The ability to identify a stimulus both by providing its name when presented with the object and by selecting the correct object when given its name. Bidirectional naming. Correct responding occurs to untrained and non-reinforced stimulus-stimulus relation after reinforcement of other stimulus-stimulus relation. Stimulus equivalence. That's hard to say. Okay, so that's my time. I'm going to continue on through the deck. A motivating operation that increases the effectiveness of some stimulus, object, or event as a reinforcer. Establishing operation. Behavior that, when acquired, opens up access to entirely new environments and contingencies of reinforcement. Behavioral cusp. Responding to one stimulus based on its relation to another stimulus or stimuli. Relational responding. Occurs when the functions of one stimulus alter or transform the functions of another stimulus in accordance with the derived relation between the two without additional training. Pass, I don't know. Private, unobservable to a third party. Private or covert behaviors. An increase in the current frequency of behavior that has been reinforced by some stimulus, object, or event whose reinforcing effectiveness depends on the same motivating operation. Evocative effect. Defined as the philosophy of behavioral science, which focuses on understanding behavior through the lenses of environmental influences, primarily through the principles of conditioning, reinforcement, and punishment, where behavior is shaped by its consequences and the stimuli presented in the environment. Behaviorism. Motivating operation in which an individual is given access to a reinforcer, decreasing the reinforcer's effectiveness. Abolishing operation. Physical energy change capable of affecting an organism's sensory receptors that has a specific form or pattern which as a unit has controlling effectiveness and is the result of verbal behavior. Verbal stimulus. The literature supports the use of interventions and procedures that are derived from the principles of behavior. Conceptually systematic. Decrease in the current frequency of behavior that has been reinforced by some stimulus, object, or event whose reinforcing effectiveness depends on the same motivating operation. Abative effect. Relations between stimuli are bidirectional. Responding to the relation in one direction, A to B, entails responding to the relation in other direction, B to A. Mutual entailment? I don't know. Wow, I don't know how I just got that. Refers to the concept that a behavior's function, the reason it occurs, is not static, but rather changes depending on the specific context and environmental conditions surrounding it. Functional contextualism. Complete and concise description of behavior change procedures for replication. Technological. Refers to the ability to combine mutually related events into a relational network under forms of contextual control that can include arbitrary contextual cues. Pass. I just dropped a card. Philosophical approach within behavior analysis that focuses solely on observable external behaviors, including internal states like thoughts and feelings, as a means to study and understand behavior. Methodological behaviorism. This behavior operant has point-to-point correspondence, no formal similarity, and immediately follows a verbal stimulus. Codex. Selected behaviors are socially significant. Applied. Group of stimuli that share a common function, topography, or temporal relation and have a common effect on a response class behavior. Stimulus class. The use of related stimuli samples during instruction to increase a person's ability to respond to novel, untrained stimuli. Multiple exemplar training. Behavior reinforced through social mediation. A listener is conditioned to provide reinforcement to the speaker. The term verbal is used to describe a communicative behavior. The term vocal describes the use of vocal musculature to produce sounds. Verbal behavior. Someone who provides reinforcement for a speaker's verbal behavior. Audience or verbal community. Connection between stimuli that is not directly taught but emerges as a result of learning other related stimulus relations. Derived relation. Two events shown to covary over repeated observations allows for estimations to be made about the future occurrence of those events. Prediction. This verbal operant has no point-to-point correspondence or formal similarity. It immediately follows a verbal stimulus and produces generalized conditioned reinforcement. Intraverbal. Unit of verbal behavior where a response is functionally related to the variables that control it. Verbal operant. Concept in verbal behavior wherein the controlling stimulus and the verbal behavior have the same topographical sense, mode, or form. Formal similarity. Comprehensive philosophy of behaviorism developed by B.F. Skinner, which aims to understand all human behavior, including private events like thoughts and feelings, by explaining them in terms of their functional relationships with environmental factors, essentially viewing all behavior, both public and private, as shaped by the environment. Radical behaviorism. An elementary verbal operant involving a response by any form that is evoked by an MO and followed by a specific reinforcement, AMAND. This verbal operant has point-to-point correspondence, formal similarity, and immediately follows a verbal stimulus. The response is the same sense mode as the model. Duplex. Observation of behavior is objective. Empiricism. Refers to the process of eliminating the association or pairing between a condition motivating operation and its previously established motivating properties. Pragmatism? Pragmatism. I say this word wrong, but I know it. Demonstration of socially significant behavior change. Effective. Exists whenever a controlling variable evokes a response and there is point-to-point correspondence between the controlling variable and the response. Formal control? Wow. Okay. Describes a situation in which a controlling variable evokes a response, but there is no point-to-point correspondence between the controlling variable and the response. Thematic control? The universe is a lawful, orderly, not accidental. Determinism. Philosophical assumption underlying the science of behavior analysis that anything that evolves does so because of the consequences of behavior, meaning that behaviors that result in positive consequences survive and produce more sophisticated repertoires. Selection. Selectionism? Okay. Observable to others, public or overt events. Skills occur outside of the training setting or beyond the trained response. Generalizable. Behavior analytic approach to language, which aims to connect and understand the relationship between language and derived stimulus relations. Pass. Functional aspect of an antecedent phenomena that demonstrates a change in the effectiveness of stimuli as reinforcers and or alters the current frequency of a behavior. Motivating operation. Oh my gosh, I keep dropping cards. Quantifiable and observable events that are compared with known facts to form hypotheses. Description. Secondary verbal operant that modifies the effect of a verbal behavior. Primary verbal behavior on the listener, essentially providing additional information about the speaker's intent or certainty regarding their statement, thus influencing how the listener interprets the primary verbal response. Autoclitic. Scientific approach to understanding and changing behavior by systematically identifying the environmental factors that influence a person's actions with the goal of improving socially significant behaviors through the manipulation of these factors in real-world settings. Applied behavior analysis. Treatment decisions are made based upon data demonstrating functional relationships. Analytic. Refers to the influence a motivating operation has on the current frequency or likelihood of a behavior, causing it to increase or decrease depending on whether the motivating operation is establishing or abolishing the reinforcing value of a stimulus. Behavior altering effect. Refers to a situation where a single behavior is influenced by more than one variable. Multiple control. Demonstration of a functional relation through the manipulation of an independent variable while observing changes in the dependent variable. Control. Refers to the ability to relate stimuli based on learned associations that are not dependent on the physical properties of the stimuli. Pass. Response evoked by a particular object or event or property of an object or event. Tact. Selected behaviors are observable and measurable. Behavioral. Behavior shaped without directly contacting contingencies using rules is an effective method for changing behavior, as it does not require applying reinforcing or punishing consequences consistently over time in order to establish contingencies. If rules are broken frequently without contacting the stated or implied consequences, the rule loses its effectiveness. Rule-governed behavior. Concept in verbal behavior, wherein the beginning, middle, and the end of the controlling stimulus content match the beginning, middle, and the end of the verbal behavior content. Pass. Okay, that is all my cards. Thanks for watching.